Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the monthly Women's Disability Show. Today it's
Woo!
just me, Ashley, and Jessica, and we'll introduce ourselves very briefly here in a second. But it's just us quads. Everybody else is going through life things. So, Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so I'm Jessica. I am a C7 incomplete. I live in California and I've been injured for 14 years almost.
Okay, okay. And I'm Ashley. I'm a C4 quadriplegic. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, injured in a car accident in 2019. So, yeah.
Well, this is new. So I guess everyone had life stuff. So we're switching it up. We're not gonna let you guys off the hook. We're still here.
Yeah. Here for a little show to talk, all the things. My dogs are coming in my room, distracting me. But I'm here. We're
So
just gonna have some quiet talks.
I think what we're going to be doing today is just focusing on topics related to women quads. Please feel free to join us in the chat and ask any questions or anything that you would like to share. We'll try to stay on track with that as well. Okay. So, like we said, our show usually has three quads, two paras, and our paras aren't feeling well. Our other quad is out. And so it's Ashley and I today. So we're just going to go over topics related to being a quad, being a woman. I think it's a little different than being a para. I usually say we're badasses.
Period.
So, Ashley, what do you want to start us off with? I think, yeah.
So I wrote some questions down, and I was curious. Like, this would be a good question for you, especially since like you're a therapist too. Like, what's something you do to get through the bad days or the bad moments? Because as a quad, sometimes I know too. Do you spend a lot of the time by yourself? Like, are you alone a lot?
Well, I have a child. So,
Okay,
I
but like
think it's,
care wise, are you doing a lot of it on your own?
yes, I'm fully independent.
Okay. So then how do you handle like the moments, like the unexpected moments? Because yeah, a lot with disability is planned, but we get those spontaneous things that happen that sometimes ruin our day or try to ruin our day. So how do you get through those?
Um, so I think for me, there's a lot of power in the breath. I'm short tempered. So I think it's not hard to have those moments for us because of our hands. I think as I drop things, and we know that at least for me, once I'm stressed, my hands get worse for some reason, right? Like I drop more things, I knock things over more. I have ADHD, so I try to plan as much as possible, but I'm usually in a hurry. And so I have to remind myself. It's really weird because obviously earlier on in my injury, I was more of like, let me have a little meltdown. Let me just cuss it out and maybe depending on the situation, just get really pissed. Now I'm better at like reminding myself like okay, 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 I know you're late but you need to stop because you're making it worse, and just taking a deep breath, um and really focusing on the moment, not being so much in my head about hurry hurry, especially like you said, right, like when those moments come up. So like if I plan to shower but my spasms are so bad I can barely transfer, right? Then I know that shower is going to be so like overwhelming. And so I have to remind myself as I'm kind of freaking out in my head, like, okay, take a deep breath, take a moment, be present. And it really like helps me. It helps me problem solve, right? If I get in the shower and my chair rolls away or something, like how am I going to handle this? Um, but really, the power of the breath, guys, like that totally helps. When I was learning to calf and I would be alone in a restroom and I just couldn't get it and I was going to have an accident or something, I really had to just have a moment with God and just breathe. But usually that's how I handle those moments. What about you?
I love that power of the breath. I'm gonna like use that. Um, for me, I do breathe. I like that, like taking deep breaths. And I know early on, me and my sister, we decided like, there's things with our injury we can't control, and they do suck sometimes. Like last week I had something happen. I was home by myself. I was a struggle. I'm not even gonna lie. I do have people that help me with my care, or one or like two people throughout my day. But the majority of the day I'm by myself. So last week I had a little quad prob, okay? And it was scary, okay? And I give it all to God because I didn't fall. I didn't have any major like hiccups. It was just a mess. And through that all, honestly, what I did was blast worship music because I was getting in my own head about it all, and I was okay. Let me play some music because if I don't play music, I'm getting in my head, which just makes me spasm more, which is more likely to fall if I like start spazzing crazy, and then I won't be focused on what I need to be doing. So I was like, it was crazy. It was crazy. I was like, I don't even want to talk about it on here, but I'll give you guys a little like just something that shouldn't have happened was happening to me, and I had to deal with it on my own.
And
So
it's
that was
crazy.
not.
It's crazy because I think we don't realize um, that our spasms get worse, our hands get worse when we get in our heads. And just like, I think also uh, thinking of how it should be, right? Like, oh, this shouldn't be happening to me right now. In those moments, like, really suck. Um, so I think like earlier in my injury, I would get really pissed, just really angry. Um, and with time, it's like there are no shoulds with this injury, and especially being a quad, right? Like, yeah, today I might be able to grab everything well, and tomorrow I might knock everything over. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yes, I have those days often. I begin so frustrated, but I have to remind myself like it's out of your control if your body's acting up today. Like the only thing you can do, if you're doing everything that you can do to prevent it, it's just out of your control. Some days are just bad days. Some days not bad days, like in terms of like your body's acting up. Um, but I have to like remind myself constantly, like it's out of your control. Don't get in your head about it because it's just gonna make it worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never fun.
All
Never,
right,
never
what else
fun.
do you have for us?
I was curious. One thing I was curious about is like I know you said you've been injured for 13 years. That's a
Mm-hmm.
long time. I was curious. I'm sure like by now maybe it's changed, but does like talking to other quads or like finding that community help at all for you? And if so, why or why not?
I'm gonna be a para hater. I love all my paras, but um, and I've had paras tell me like, how can you're a therapist. How can you work with able-bodied people and hear them complain and give you their problems? But they don't realize that when they talk to us, we're like, okay. I mean, I go through all that and more. I think
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. This is very like mean, but I think sometimes quads are more grateful and less angry. And I think we're forced to learn patience more. And so when I'm having a freak out moment, I think I'd rather talk to a quad because they're just more like you said, we just can't control things. And I think sometimes paras still have more control, so they don't realize how much control people can actually lose, right? I think we're humbled more as quads, right? Needing to ask for help, needing um, to have other people jump in and help with our care, and even like small things that watching a parrot like get on the floor to bolt something in and fix their chair. It's like, well, I'm never gonna be able to do that, right? And so I think like you guys don't realize how much you do have sometimes. No offense, I'm
Quad
very like
power over here today.
Sorry, guys. It's quad day. Okay, it's quad day. Yeah, I think that's why, like, my quads just they to me, it's like we're more humbled. No offense, but so I need my quads for sure.
I feel that I've joined a lot of different quad groups throughout my years being injured so far. Even recently joined a quad like Bible study. So it's just quads and we go through the Bible and I've liked that because it reminds me that I'm not alone because I don't know a lot of quads in my city personally. And so it's nice sometimes, even if it's just virtual, to be able to talk openly about things that only other quads get. Because again, I'm gonna sound like a para hater, just like Jessica here, but paras sometimes just don't get it. Just like able-bodied people, it's a different life when you're a quadriplegic. Like for me, I do get help during the day, Monday through Friday, and then my family is normally around occasionally, like when other people aren't. So a lot of the times I am doing a lot of stuff by myself. Like that's how I learned how to even just transfer in and out of my bed by myself. But sometimes it's hard, and thankfully my dad does work from home. So if I am struggling, I can call him every now and again. But it's like, what if that day comes where he's not home? Where he has to go into work or something, and I'm by myself. Like last week, it was such a mess. But and there was more going on than just me not being able to transfer myself. But I was just like, it's a different thing. So sometimes it's nice to have those forums or those places to go and talk to other quads to just talk to people that get it. 'Cause it's different without hand function, without control of like your core. It's a different vibe for sure. So I feel that for sure. I really do. I really do.
I love quads. I think I don't know. I've always felt that way. That just like I really think it's that we're humbled to a degree that I've met parents that are like, oh, I left the hospital fully independent. You know, and I am fully independent, but it took me 2.5 years to get there. And so, like, having someone with me 24/7 really just it humbles you, girl. It humbles you, right? Like, it's just like,
But
yeah,
it really does. I feel that because then you too on the other end, and I hope this doesn't sound complaining when I say this, but like on the other end, I'm grateful for the help that I receive. But even sometimes when I do have help, like all day, like say it's a day where I'm fortunate enough to have help all day, then on the other end, I'm like, I didn't get any sort of alone time today. So I like for me, my energy, my social meter is just out. And then I'm like, ugh. Then I still feel depleted. So it's like a mental battle, a body battle, and it's a lot. So I feel that it does. It's very humbling being this quad
well,
life. Okay,
yeah,
you learn to
well,
be grateful.
my thing that like people don't understand sometimes, it's like I don't mind being helped, right? But it's so annoying how sometimes no one can get it right. I'm appreciative. Did it completely wrong, but I'm appreciative.
I feel that. One thing I've had to let go of. I used to be like a freak when it came. You would see some of my room behind me. I used to be such a clean freak when it came to my room and stuff, and I've had to let go of that because people just don't clean the way I like to clean. But since I can't do it all, or maybe I could, it would just take probably like two to 3 days to clean my room the way I would like it to be clean. I've had to let go of that because I'm like, you know what? I rather have my energy for other things rather than like keeping my room looking completely spotless like I would like it. Some
Yeah,
things you just gotta learn to let go of. Like I used to make my bed every morning. If no one's around to help me with that, like it ain't getting done because I'm not gonna exert my energy on that when I want to. I would rather do something else. So
yeah.
it's definitely helped me.
For me, it's weird because I'm more of like I've never been a super clean person, but I'm like hyperactive ADHD, so I'm like a little crackhead. And it could be like 11 o'clock at night, and I see a mess, and I'm like, "All right, let's do this." And I can deep clean. I can, I was like crazy, and sometimes my son, I'm like, luckily I can trick him in different ways, but he's just like, why do you get in these moods? But I need a lot of help. And I'm like, if I'm in one of those moods, like someone's gonna have to join me because I need help, you know?
Mm,
And it's really, yeah, you have to let go of it. I just have to sit with myself sometimes and say, like, I just can't get done everything that I would get done. And sometimes people don't want to help you. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like they think we're crazy. So You got to pick your battles.
Mhm.
If I need help with this, then I'm definitely not going to get help with that. And I'm going to have to learn to just be okay
True.
with that.
That's I feel that completely. That's kind of where I've ended up at. There's certain things that need to get done, like the bowels and the bladder. So I always make sure, like, when I do have to ask people for help, that's the stuff I ask people for help with. And if I notice that, because the people get burnt out, I understand, I'm 5 years
Mhm.
into this. I understand now. It ain't all about me. I understand. I understand. But, but it does humble you because you're like, okay, I'm going to ask you for what I need to keep me alive, eat, pee, and poop, and shower. But we're going to neglect the cleaning. Um, and we'll get to the laundry whenever I absolutely need it because I don't want to burn people out. I don't want to make people mad at me, and I don't want to seem like a burden, even though I know I'm not. I feel like I used to think I was such a burden earlier on in my injury, but now I'm like, no, Ashley, you just have different care needs and different things you need help with because life ain't accessible for you. Like I could do my own laundry if I could, but or if I wanted to, but it's in the basement, so I can't get to the basement. And
Yeah.
so certain things like that, sometimes I have to remind myself like it's not your fault that certain things aren't accessible to you. And it's okay if they get frustrated, that's more like on them. This is a little quad tip for all my quads out there. It's more on them because if they were so mad at it, they would make it accessible so that you could do it yourself. Especially if you've expressed that you would do it yourself if you could. So that's
It's
all I want
like,
to say on that.
and for me, sometimes it's just like, I've said it like, you know what? They're going to get mad, but it's going to get done. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm worried about. Not how they see me, not what, like, did it get done, you know? And as a quad, again, getting comfortable with people just being like, ugh, I have to help with that. It's like, you know what? Screw it. I can help, right? Um, yeah. So, okay, our chat's going crazy.
I know I
There's,
was noticing that too. Should we
whoa.
read some of them? Oh, we
Yeah.
got Tom C saying a lot of stuff. Okay. Tom. He said it's humbled me, given me a lot of different perspective, made me appreciate what I got. Losing hand function is tough. Not being able to manage bowel and bladder care independently or without a lot of effort be bringing me down sometimes. I feel that, Tom. I feel that. Black Olive said sometimes they clean and put things in places not optimal for my reach slash needs. Oh my gosh, that happens
Uh,
to me all the time. And then when I'm home by myself and I realize I'm trying to grab something and it's out of my reach, I get so frustrated because then I'm like, wow, so I did want to do that today, but now that it's way up there or like way over there and I can't reach it, I'm not gonna get that done today. So we have to wait till someone's around. Um, Chair Life said we only get so many ask. Aw, yeah, we really do. But one
yeah.
of the things that humbles up, I suppose. And then Black Olive said, I have a lot of corners packed. LOL. And then Tom C again. Ugh, I hate when my people put something I need out of reach. I know that's like
Ser-
my biggest pet peeve, but it's like you can only tell them so many times before you're just like, you know what, you just are not understanding this quad life, okay? You're not understanding.
we have Alpine. Hi. He said hello. Let's see if you say my name. Are you
I
saying you don't know if we're gonna say it correctly?
I don't see that comment.
It's all at
I'm
the
gonna go ahead.
top.
Oh, okay. Mine start going down as I get more. I don't know how to go up from this computer. I'm using my sister's laptop. I don't know how to use this thing. This laptop isn't quad friendly.
There you go. Because Opera owns it.
Yeah. So there's nothing on it for me to like scroll up. I'm like, I don't even know how to do that on this computer. Anyway. Um
But yeah, so I guess the caregiver situation's a lot different, or just you know, I tell my son, I'm like, hey, ableist, and he gets so mad. But
Abel.
but he
He's
does the
like,
same
hey, Abel.
thing over and over. Like he'll put the shower head up top and never brings it back down. So I'm like, hey, ableist. He gets really mad. And if
Sometimes
some
you gotta call them how you see them. No, I'm just kidding.
hey, it's just the world we live in.
Yeah, it's like after so long, you're like, you should know. Especially, I think it's different, especially when you live with people that are like able-bodied, or I live with the para, and so they're used to doing stuff a certain way. Like for me, one thing that I get really frustrated with is that I can unlock our one door, but then our screen door, I can't unlock that one just because it's like a harder lock. I really don't know, but they always lock it, and then they get mad when I don't take the dogs out and stuff. And I'm like, well, I can't when you lock that door. You got to keep it accessible for me. Okay, it's been 5 years. You should know. door needs to be unlocked. The other door can be locked, but that door can't be locked. And just one of those little things that's like frustrating for me, but I have to understand that people don't do that naturally because they just don't have me in mind, or I don't know, they're just forgetting about me. I don't know. Um,
It's funny because like my child finds a lot of like disabled things normal, right? Because
yeah.
he's been around me for 14 years and but then there's certain things where I'm like, dude, you do this every single day. Like, what the hell?
That's when you call them ableist.
That's what I call him, ableist.
I'm gonna be thinking about that. It's gonna get me laughing.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm
yes, I
think,
guess
what
we all have this problem, and as
we
quads
do all
on.
our quad prods. How long would you say, like post injury, for like maybe our newly injured people that are watching, did it take for you to like become okay with all the things that you can't control as a quad?
Probably like 3, 4 years. I mean, and I'll say this too, that I was 21 and then I started taking probably year two. I went back to school, back to psychology classes, and I'll say that if I wasn't a therapist, I probably would still really struggle. I think that at this point I have moments, right? But
Okay.
I have I have anger management issues my whole life, so I think that that is a really hard thing. Some people still say I'm very controlling, and so I think for me too, realizing that I have a lot of control with my voice, with what I can make happen, with so I focus on other areas where I have a lot of control because that is, I mean, it's always going to be something that is a struggle, but I think that, yeah, the first 3 years were the hardest. And then just really realizing like life isn't what you want it to be. And it could be whether you're able bodied or not. Um, Obviously, as a quad, we have to adjust more than other people and just letting it be. Uh, I still have my moments, obviously. Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's natural. No one ever, especially if you weren't born like this, you never expect to have to live in a body that's kind of fighting against you some days, where you're like, okay, I can't control that, but it's still annoying. And some days are easier than others to like get frustrated at the things we can't control or not. I feel
Yeah.
that.
And I think like, like you recently had health issues and I know that for me, like I could be really good. Like I'm like, I'm good. I got this. Like this is something I can handle, blah, blah, blah. And then I get sick and it knocks me down and I'm just like, I fucking hate this, you know?
I feel that. And I feel because like when I had my health issues, I did lose a lot of my independence and that was rough. Like I was like, wow, I didn't realize how grateful I was for the independence I do have as a quad. But I realized that when I got sick because I was like, wow, I lost even more independence for a while. Now I gained my strength back, so I'm good now. But it was so frustrating because I was like, wow, it really humbled me again because I was like, well, I'm grateful for all the things I can do, even though I still can't do much. I'm grateful for the things can do because that was rough, like having to rely on people even more than I had to
Yeah.
before I got sick.
I
It
had
humbled
a
me for sure.
one time I had a Botox mishap. They
Oh
decided
no.
let's put Botox. So I do Botox in my bladder all the time and I'm fine, right? But Botox can spread. And I didn't know that the bladder was different than other muscles. And they put it in my abductors and my inner thighs because my spasms are insane. And it spread. And for 3 months, I couldn't transfer. I couldn't, like, you go from being fully independent to losing it, and it's just like you said, right? Like you have these moments where you forget, like, oh shit, like, yeah, I could, like, I could lose it all. And, I really have to enjoy and be grateful for what I do have when I have it.
Yeah, I had literally had one of the nurses at one of the hospitals I was at this past time. I had pushed the nurse button to see if I could be turned because that's how weak I was. I couldn't even turn myself. And She came in and goes, "You can't turn yourself. We're busy. You can't turn yourself." Ooh, so badly I wanted to cuss her out, but the Lord stopped me. Thank you. But I just killed her with kindness, and I was like, I usually can, but I'm weak, so that's why I called you in here. Like, I wouldn't be asking you for help if I didn't need it. Like, if I could turn myself, and I also had all these wires attached to me. I was like, even if I could turn myself, I probably shouldn't because it's safer with you doing it anyway. Like, it was just so frustrating. But it was a reminder of like, and she was a nurse too, so hopefully she got fired. I don't know. She was annoying. I didn't report her or anything, even though I probably should. But she was so rude. But I was like, it's just a reminder of sometimes how people view you as a burden just because they see you as someone who's like a little bit more independent of a quad, and then when you can't do what you usually can do, all of a sudden you're seen even more like a burden again, and it's a reminder of like, wow, people sometimes just don't want to help you out. But again, I remind myself that it's them. It's a them problem, not a me problem, because at least I'm voicing what I need to.
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to, like you said, right? We've been able bodied. And, you know, I have had clients that are like, well, before my injury, I was kind of an asshole, right? And I realize it now because I need help. And so I think that for me, on the other hand, it's like I've been on the other side and someone needing help has never bothered me. And so I know it's a you problem, right? It's not a me problem because, having an issue with helping people, like I've had strangers, I've had homeless people help me, and they always step up. The homeless people are the coolest people. They've always been the best to help me in a tight spot in the middle of nowhere. And it's like there's people that carry themselves like yeah, like I'm a nurse, I'm this, I'm that, and it's like you're an asshole, you know.
I feel that. I feel
Mhm.
that completely. Even some of the people like earlier on, my care team's pretty decent now. I could use some more people, but earlier on in my injury, man, I was putting up with a lot of shit that I just wouldn't put up with now because I'm like, my needs are okay, they're valid, and there's something out of my control. If I can control the things that I need help with, I would be doing it. Trust me, I don't want to ask you for help. Um, but it made me realize like I didn't have to put up with some of the stuff that I was putting up with, like the rudeness, the side commentary of like how burdensome I was being. Like I'm like, I don't know. So I feel that completely because it's like another reminder of we're worthy, okay? As disabled people, as quads particularly, we're worthy, okay? If you're not completely independent, or even if you are, you're still worthy, okay? Everybody needs help in some shape, way, or form at some point in their life. If it's not every day, it'll be someday, eventually. So
Yeah.
I'm reminded of that constantly, being humbled.
So Black Olive said, "You don't need the Lord, you
Oh,
need the nurse manager. If you go back to the hospital, fire the nurse and ask for a nurse manager."
I know, man. If I honestly, at that time, I was feeling so bad. Like I was still kind of out of it and whatnot. But if I was feeling better, I probably would have. But I just didn't have the energy in me to even fight like that. I was just like, I just need to be turned, lady. Unless you want to be in charge of this pressure sore I'm going to get if you don't turn me. That's like really what I wanted to tell her, low key. She was rude. She even gave me so many problems when it would come to doing my. I had her only a couple times when I was at this hospital, but she even gave me problems when I was like, would ask for the enema to do my bowel program. She would give me so many problems. And I'm like, lady, I'm just asking for a poop. If I was a regular schmegler patient, I'd be pooping every day. You better be happy I'm only pooping every other day. Like, why are you acting like I'm the problem? Okay. You need to
Mhm.
chill. She was not a
Yeah.
nice lady, but most of the nurses there were nice. She just wasn't. Um,
So I think two things are true, and I'll say this is that don't forget you have the right to advocate. You have the right to challenge some of these things and say, this is not okay with me. Um, but also, if you're too tired to advocate in that moment, just say, help me, and that's it, right? Don't
right.
always.
I feel like I killed her with kindness, and she was like, "Oh, like she wasn't even rude to me and I responded so rude to her." It's like, "Yeah, lady."
But I think too, what you said was valid, and I think even the people in our lives, like I've had to tell, like I think the one person I've had so many issues come up with lately because we moved out on our own is me and my son, and I'm just like, hey, when you make these type of comments, this is how it makes me feel, right? And he's just like, I will never make those comments again. I'm so sorry. So don't feel like you always have to take the side eye or the where they think they're being funny, but they're just fucking assholes. You can say something, guys. It might help.
Right. How do you, I'm curious, it's like kind of a random question, but kind of not. How do you navigate, like, your kid is getting older. Does he understand the quad life? And like, how does he, like, navigate that, I guess?
It was funny because I was saying that he volunteered for Triumph this past or 2 weeks ago or something, and he was like, I wasn't even there. I just left him, and he was there all weekend, and he was with Bobby, so one of our other quads.
Aw.
If you guys watched the other show, he was my babysitter. Um, but there's a lot of things that to my son are not abnormal. So, like, it's weird. Like, my son can watch you pushing yourself and he will never jump in, but he knows when you start struggling and he
Mm-mm.
assists. He doesn't fully take over. He's very like mindful, but he doesn't like he was saying like I could tell there were new injuries because they kept apologizing. Like, I'm sorry my leg does that. I'm sorry that I need this. I'm sorry. And he was like, it made no sense. Like, why are you apologizing for your leg? It's not your fault, you know? So there's certain things with my child that it's just like helping is just common sense in his world, right? But then there's things that sometimes I have to remind myself, like he doesn't want to do this not because of my disability. He doesn't want to do this because he's an 18-year-old boy, like the dishes, you know? Right.
God.
So sometimes it's kind of like there's a lot of things in our world that to him are just natural, right? Like if you're struggling to transfer, he'll say like, "Do you need help?" And he can help and jump in and like if he sees you pushing and struggling, he knows when to jump in. He's not the type though that will do everything for you because he just knows you don't need him to do everything for you.
Mm.
um, and but he's very to him it's very natural and normal a lot of what we need you know
Okay, okay. Because he was pretty young then when you got injured, if he's 18.
yeah, he was
Okay.
4, so he doesn't really remember
Oh,
me full bodied at all.
so cute. Hopefully he grows up, or I guess he already kind of is grown up, grows up to be humbled and grateful for all that he's able to do. That's beautiful.
No, he is, and I think that like I think he knows and he sees strength different than other people. Like he's had like struggles with his mental health, and so to him it's like if you're emotionally and mentally strong, like like his mom, he's like you're the toughest person on earth because that shit's hard.
Mm.
That's really what's hard. Being able to do things or not do things, like eh, it's like that's just if you need help, you need help. If you don't, you don't. But so he measures like strength in a different way, I think.
I love that. I love that. That's so cute. You guys will one day will have to be a Jessica and her son podcast. That would be a
Uh,
good episode. I'll come up with questions for that one. Okay.
you said he's the funniest little mini me.
Oh, so cute. I love it. I don't know why I always pictured your son was like a little kid. Like, and you said he's 18. I was like, oh wait, I've been picturing this whole time that Jessica's son was like 8 or 9 or something. No, he's an adult.
Well, that was a funny thing that like I tell people when he was little, he went to all the events. I tell people that he learned to ride a hand cycle before he learned to ride a bicycle. And then he wanted a hand cycle. He's never wanted a bicycle. And he wanted to play rugby and things like that. And then they get to like 11 or 12 and they don't want to wake up in the morning to go to anything anymore. So then I took him and people are like, wait, what the hell happened? And I'm like, I know. I know. He was a teenager for a while. We lost him.
Oh,
But Yeah, I was like, but he needs community service hours for school, so here you go.
Okay, okay. Is he still in high school or is college life?
High school, so he's graduating this year.
Oh, so cute, so cute. Do you feel like even this is like again? Let me know if I'm asking too many invasive questions, okay? But do you feel
No,
like him growing up with a kid as a quadriplegic mother? Did you ever find like his friends shocked when they would meet you? Like, did he openly tell his friends like, "Oh, my mom's a quadriplegic. If you don't know what that is, here X Y Z." Or like, how was that?
so the weird thing is, I put my child in the same, so in a private school, and they have one grade from kinder through eighth.
Oh wow.
So like his friends met me in kinder, and they're the same friends till eighth grade. In high school, I think it was an afterthought, right? Like his friends would come over, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, she's in a wheelchair," and that was it. Like,
Aw,
yeah, it's never been a weird thing. Sometimes when he was little, and people would ask, like, "Oh, there's my baby."
I know we put him on the screen. Look at you, Shawn.
And so when people
Aw.
ask, like, "Oh, like, what's wrong with your mom?" Other little kids, he would go on a whole science thing, and he'd be like, "Turn around, let me show you. This is your spinal cord, and this is how it works, and this is how it communicates." And if he was too busy playing, he would say, "Her legs are broken. Let's go." So,
Her legs are broken. I'm dead. He's funny though. He's probably a smart kid.
oh yeah, but it's
Know
funny
all about
because
the spinal cord injury before anybody else.
kids really teach you a lot. I asked him one time, I'm like, "Why would you say that to people?" And he's like, "I don't have time to educate everyone." I was like, all right, like he's right. And I learned that too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my clients, like, if you are open to sharing about your limitations and your disability, do so, right? But don't always feel like you have to. Not everyone needs to know the details, and we're not we're not our we're not in a position where we have to educate everyone, and we always have to be on, because I think that's hard too,
Yes.
right? Even
Mm-hmm.
at the top, like, a lot of times I don't explain my hand function, and then they see my hands a certain way, and it's like, "Oh wait, what the hell?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, my hands don't work, dude." And but I don't always feel the need to explain to people, and sometimes I will. I'll go on a full explanation.
I feel that. I feel like early on in my injury, I'm still kind of early, but earlier on in my injury, I always feel like I had to educate people. And honestly, going through the health scare, I realized I don't always have to be on and educate people. Like, there's Google. Can you Google it? Like, when I was so out of it and like didn't really just have the energy to do anything, I'm like, oh, so what's your accident? Oh, C4, what's that? Google it. Google it. I'm
Hmm.
not your doctor to Google it. Like, Google it. I don't want to explain it right now. I'm literally fighting for my life, and I could barely, at the time, I literally had a breathing machine over me. So I'm like, I'm having to pull this off just to talk to you and get more oxygen. Like, Google it. Leave me
Yeah.
alone. Let me get healthy. And I realized that I don't always have to be the educator for people because this is just my lived experience. If you really want to learn, become my friend, and then you'll learn naturally, okay?
Yeah, and I think I've had friends too that are like, "Hey, you never talk about it." And I guess a lot of times for me, I don't lead with it. It's not, I tell people, like, it's like if I explain to everyone why I have an arm and why my arm is there and how my arm exists. It's like my disability is very much a part of me, but it isn't all of me. And so,
I agree.
I have people that are like, "I know you're in a chair. I know you have limitations, and you've told me what they are, but you don't." Sometimes I think to myself, "Wait, I don't know a lot about your disability." And I go, "Well, you're welcome to ask. At this point, we've been friends long enough." But I don't, yeah, I think sometimes when you're early on in your injury, you feel like this overwhelming need to become like the spokesperson for spinal cord injury or being a quad. And it's like, I mean, I'm more than happy to raise awareness and to go to events and to do this and to do that, but realize that we're not just quads, right? We're people.
Yes, we're all just human, you guys.
Mhm.
And we
Yeah.
happen to be disabled, okay? I definitely had to learn that. I mean, people probably know if you ever, if anybody here that's watching follows me on my socials, I haven't really posted anything about like my disability too much, unless you like see my stories every now and again. But it was just becoming a lot. Like I was feeling like my identity was just I was a little disabled girl, and I was like, no, there's more to Ashley than just quad life. Like, and I want people to see that because I don't always just want to be every time I meet up with someone like, oh, you're a quad, and asking a million questions. Like, no, ask me about something else. Like, because I'm human and I want to have other conversations that are completely irrelevant to my disability because I live my disabled life. So even when I'm not talking about disability, I'm thinking about it. Like I promise you something's going on that you probably have no idea what's going on in my body because I hide it well or I mask it well. So
Yeah,
it's definitely
definitely.
been a learning lesson for me like recently, which has been nice, but I've been navigating that, not always having to educate or advocate, just kind of living life because
Yeah.
I deserve to
And
live a simple, beautiful life.
I've become I'm very like the way I choose to say things or not say things. One of my friends always like laughs but gets mad because when I'm at a drive-through, I'm not gonna explain to you what's wrong with my hands. I'm just gonna say, "Hey, I need you to lean out the window because I have funny hands." And they look at me like, "Oh, yeah, of course, of course." And you know, like my chair is next to me, so right. And even when it's not like, once you say that, that's enough. I don't need to explain to you why they're funny or what's going on. Just lean over, give me my stuff.
Yeah, I felt that even like I just went to Walgreens today and if they don't have the tap, I need help swiping. Usually, just because I swipe too slowly. Like I'm trying to use both hands to swipe this card because I don't have a grip. So usually I'm just swiping too slowly. So I always just ask the cashier if it's a swiper. I'm like, can you swipe this for me
Hmm.
real
Yeah,
quick, just so I don't mess it up? I could do the pin and everything. And you just swipe it for me. And they
yeah.
do. Usually people are really nice about it. I've encountered some booty heads, but most of the time people are really understanding and they don't ask more questions than just, okay, I'll help you with that. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
You know what's funny? Like in the grocery store, I will, if they have baskets, like I'll get my basket. Recently, I used a cart somewhere, but I usually don't. Oh, because it was like Sam's and it's a big ass store. But I will just look for a basket, and it's funny because people will be like, "Oh, do you need help?" I'm like, "No, I'm good." And then I ask random people, right, for things on the top shelf, and I'll just say, "I'm sorry, I'm really short. Can you grab that for me?" And but then I get to the register, and the whole time I've been saying I don't need help. But then I get to the register and I'm like, oh, I need help to my car. Like, can someone carry everything to the car?
Feel that.
Build it. But the reason, but they're never going to understand, right? But if I have a basket on my lap, I'm fine. But if you put grocery stores on my lap, they're going to slide off.
True.
True. And they're not going to let me take the basket. So I'm just like, here, now you can carry everything to the car.
Right? One day just steal one. We don't condone stealing on Live to Roll, but one day just steal one. No, I'm kidding.
I have one everywhere.
hmm Instead of those grocery bags, we need baskets as quads. I usually just will ask people. I know you're in a manual chair, but I usually just ask people to put it on my hooks on the back of my chair. And they're usually, like I said, usually people are understanding and they don't ask more questions. And then just, what hook do you want to put it on? I'll be like, I my one of my hooks is messed up, so I'm like, my right hook.
Yeah.
Make sure they don't
Well,
fall off.
I've done that at the mall. So like, like clothing stores and stuff like that. And with mine, it's like, can you put it in the back, but use both handles? So like, because if they put it on one handle, it just ends up dragging on my wheel. So they have.
Oh,
Mhm. But
I
yeah,
feel
guys,
that.
if you're at the store, don't be afraid to say, do this, do that to people because, you know, we need a little extra help.
hmm
Not a big deal.
Yeah, and I feel as long as you ask nicely, they're usually pretty nice and understanding, and they don't pry about what's wrong with you or nothing. I've never had anyone when I was out at like a grocery store or a convenience store or anything ask me about like what happened to you. They literally just helped me. So I probably
Yeah.
wouldn't attend the store again or go as often if they constantly like reminded me of all my trauma. I would be like, okay, this is frustrating every time I go here.
Well, I'll say this, that like employees never ask, but I've had random strangers ask. But employees are pretty good. So if you are anywhere and there's people working, those people are usually safe to ask questions to or help with. Obviously, if you're talking to randoms, sometimes they'll ask. So just a heads up on that. Okay, what do we
Okay.
have here in the chat?
I know I saw someone said abilities makes a cool looking quad card swiper. Never tried it. Looks workable though. Okay. I'll have to check that out. I know abilities. I'll have to look at his website.
Okay.
What are
Uh,
other ones?
what was it? Let's see. Bobby Rocks. Yup. You
Oh,
are awesome. Thank you, Leon. Chair Life Quad Raise Great Problem Solvers. Yes, definitely. And not just
okay.
that, I think like to my kid, it's not even just that he can problem solve, but nothing is like a total deterrent, you know? Like he's always like, okay, well, what
Mhm.
else? Um, what else? You work perfect, not the same as everyone else, just different. Yes, we're just different.
Mhm. Quad
Most
poppers.
cool. Most people are cool. It is what it is. Yeah, guys. So we're getting close to 4 o'clock. Do you have any final
Yeah.
things to discuss, Ashley?
No, I guess maybe the final thing before we head off. I know it was kind of this podcast was like all over the place, but hopefully quads felt seen and heard and validated in our feelings. But I guess the last thing I would want to end on is like any quad tips for any quads that are watching of like when you're out and about or even just at home, things that have helped you navigate your independence.
I think that when you're barely in this world, I think push yourself to try to do as much as you can without any adapted equipment or anything like that, just to challenge yourself. But be open to using all adapted equipment when people aren't around because it really can help and make a difference. Um, I would say that, you know, one of your biggest like ways of using full hand function is use people, guys. Use people. Don't be afraid, right? I think that that's something we talked a lot about today. That's really important for us quads is sometimes we pick our battles, sometimes it's not easy. And I think we will always feel like a little uncomfortable asking at first. But I think the reason we're such badasses is because we have to get through so many uncomfortable situations, right? And so just know, become comfortable with the uncomfortable. That's one of my biggest tips. And realize that if you haven't figured it out, you will. And yeah, use people, guys. Use them.
Right? These a-holes and paras are there for a reason. No, I'm just kidding. No para hate. We love the paras.
We
Just
love
kidding.
parrots. If this episode made any para feel bad, don't. We still love
Yeah, we're
you.
just kidding. Maybe this episode wasn't for you. No, I'm just kidding.
It
No,
was just
no.
a quad takeover, okay?
Yeah, quad takeover. So we gotta make fun of our parents a little bit, you know.
A little bit, a little bit. All right, Shawn. I don't know. Do you want us to talk about sponsors? Let's do that, and
Oh
then
yes, sponsors and this was a good
what?
episode. Jessica, did the quads do good? Okay.
Let's see. Oh, Black Olive. It's
Oh,
all fun when talking to someone super hot. Oh, thank you. I asked for help from a guy at a. Oh, I thought she was talking about me. The guy at the donut shop. Cheap excuse to talk to him. I've done that. I've totally done that. I picked the thing on
okay.
the highest shelf just to talk to a cute guy.
Aw.
All right, our sponsors. Thank you,
Oh
mobility
yes.
professionals and urology professionals. Please, if you guys are looking for anything, make sure you hit them up first because they are supporting our people.
Yeah.
Ashley, awesome time with you.
Yes. Same, Jessica. Thanks for taking over the quadcast today. As our
Yeah.
other co-hosts were a little under the weather.
Don't worry, quads
Oh
can
yes, we
always.
gotta talk about the shows. Okay, guys, we have the women's show every third Thursday of the month. Come check us out. And Then I know on Tuesday are the boys, Bobby, Shawn, and Tom at 3:30 PST. And then there's the video game one. Is that gonna be next? Yes, then the gaming with Hell Wheels every Monday. Okay, I've never seen that one. I'll check that one out. And then we have gaming with T Fizzle, our boy Tom, every Wednesday. And
Over the Hill,
and then
right?
our Rolling Over the Hill live every second and fourth Thursdays. And I think there's one more. The
Another
ladies, right?
one.
Yeah, rolling with the golden oldies every first Thursday of the month.
Woo-woo.
A
All
little
right.
podcast for everyone. Thank you
Yes,
guys.
guys.
Like,
Hope you
comment, share, subscribe,
quad
and live to roll.